Boom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we got a guest where we're going to challenge the myths and explore the realities of digital networking. So let's get this show started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. All right, business bros, welcome back. And today we're going to explore the ever-evolving landscape of digital networking and marketing. And we have a guest who's on a mission to redefine how we approach digital networking as a whole. He's the founder of tripally.io and joins us to share his insight and experiences. His journey from corporate world to entrepreneurship has been nothing short of remarkable. As the anti-LinkedIn guy, he's calling out the myths and challenges that come with digital networking, and he's here to shed some light on what truly works. So let's welcome to the show, Mr. Josh Polgardi. All right, Josh, let's do this thing, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hernan. I've been listening to your podcast, buddy. I love every second of it. I'm so stoked to be here right now. You have no idea.
Appreciate it, man. Well, let's do this thing. First question, then I always ask is, what are you doing for a living, man? Everybody who comes on the show is here to share what they do. What is that for you?
Yeah, man, of course. My preeminent business right now is Tripoli or Trip Ally. However the case may be, however you want to say it's good. Golly, how do I start on Tripoli? It is an app for people who want to meet people, and that is what I'm spending all my time doing right now.
All right, you got to be a little more specific, man. People meeting people could be all kinds of different places that we go on here. Who's that target demographic? What kind of people looking for what kind of people?
Yeah, so you know what? A couple years ago when I entered the entrepreneurial world, this is going to sound super boring to people, but you go do your taxes, right? April 15th, cruising around, and you start, did I pay those quarterly taxes? Like, I don't remember. And you go to file the taxes, and you get to the part where you're like, doggone it, I should have traveled for business a little bit. But, like, I should have taken that trip. I should have met that client out somewhere, but I didn't do it. This year wasn't the year. I was busy. So Tripoli's inception was, hey, how can we make it easier for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, the people who live in the digital nomad lifestyle? How can we make it easier for those people to live that lifestyle that they were sort of promised when they struck out into their own business? Because it's actually a lot harder to do than most people think. All of a sudden your budget's tight and you're like, oh, should I go to that conference in Vegas for $4,000? It's like, oh. So I wanted Tripoli to be the app that you popped open and you could go, hey, here's Hernan. Let's say Hernan's in Seattle. I want to go meet that guy and talk business with him. And now you got your business trip. Oh. So that's how it started.
All right. That's kind of a good premise, right? And I know people are going to be feeling it. It is tax season right now. IRS officially opened today, so it's the first e-filing day that we have. And so, you're making your appointment. You're going to look through that stuff. Hopefully, you did pay your quarterlies. But you're exactly right. You look at expenses, and it already happened. Might as well make some changes going forward. So, okay, we can hop on the app and meet people and maybe network, do business with, or at least have somebody to bounce ideas off of, which is always cool on these kinds of trips. Why go into that space though? I mean, you were obviously already an entrepreneur. You had a business. What shifted?
Well, that's a great question. After getting a lot of feedback, a lot of really good feedback from people, these things change, they shift. You build a product and you go, I built it for this reason, but what people actually want is something slightly different. I didn't get to the heart of the problem. And the heart of the problem, as it turned out, after a million sitting down and having coffees with people, was what we're actually frustrated with is this lack of connection between people. We're having a hard time actually networking. Even if you show up to that Chamber of Commerce event, or business building event, trade show, whatever you want. It's actually kind of difficult. You're playing the lottery, and
Mm.
it's really difficult to bump into the right person at the right time and make that valuable business friendship that you're looking for. I mean, so for example, I've spent 20 years building my business or my network the wrong way. Sorry, not the wrong way, the hard way. I shouldn't say the wrong way. I did it the hard way, which is you show up, you work hard, you smile, you be happy, you go the extra mile, you take a couple steps up the corporate ladder. And at the end of 20 years, you know some people in some places, but it's not really like this powerful business network that like you see other people have, where like they know a guy or they know a gal. Um, or they have that business camaraderie that helps them build their business and helps it, everybody helping each other. Like it's so hard to get, it
Mm.
takes so much time. So with all this feedback going, no, actual human connection is the problem. We're having a hard time connecting. And doing it online doesn't seem to be doing the trick. So I wanted people to have a place where they could go, hey, I want to meet Hernan face to face. He lives in my town. He's open for meeting face to face. Let's just do it. There's no awkwardness. There's none of that weird, like kind of thirsty, I'm going to send you a DM on LinkedIn and hope you want to meet, you know?
I've been there, dude. I've been there. It's one of the reasons why I started the podcast in the first place, because I would literally reach out to people and have that conversation of, "Hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee?" First of all, I don't even personally drink coffee. I'm one of those weird ones. But I'd still be asking that, right? And let me get 5 minutes of your time. Let me pick your brain. They're kind of weird questions to be asking people that you've never met before. And chances are they're going to tell you no, but all of a sudden, inviting them to be a guest on the podcast to talk about their business, those got a lot of yeses. I think people are definitely looking for a way to connect with people, to get their message out, to really talk to people. But I feel like the first date, that first meeting, that's kind of where you're gonna figure it out. What happens after that? What happens after you meet that person for the first time? You have that face to face. What is there anything that happens after that, or is it just for that first connection?
Oh, the world is your oyster after that. Maybe it's a bad business model on my part, but I mean, most apps people build, they want people to stay on the platform. They want to pay for premium services. We want them to uh, to pay to be able to send more direct messages or more searches, that kind of a thing. That's not our model. Our model is purely we want you to meet who you want to meet, if in fact they also want to be met. From there, the world's your oyster. We understand that people are going to trade email addresses, phone numbers. That's what we want because we want people to have a non awkward environment where the expectation is we're going to meet some people in business and our career is going to explode from there. Like these interpersonal connections are where referrals come from, partnerships, encouragement, all the things that we're looking for in a community that we kind of lost in this like Zoom era. And I think people want that back.
Yeah, I think we've become, I've always felt like I was already a people watcher. My wife would get on my case when we go to restaurants because she's like, stop looking at everybody. I'm like, I can't help it. Like, it's my thing, right? Go to Comic-Con downtown in San Diego, just watch people in costumes. People watching is kind of a thing. And I feel like with social media and with different networking events like that, I feel like that's what it ends up being. We go it, and the intention is to talk to people, but that's not usually what happens. You end up having this kind of fake relationship online, and it doesn't really pan out that way. Now, I grew up in a different time. I grew up when there wasn't any of that stuff around, where a conversation actually had to happen for you to get to know anybody. What was your background like in business prior to getting to this point where you realized, like, dude, I need to meet more people. Let me just try to solve this problem myself.
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, it started when I struck out into the freelance world. I was a manual laborer. I was washing windows all throughout my 20s, and I loved it. Honestly, it's still the best job I've ever had, except for Tripoli. It was fantastic, but I knew I couldn't realistically raise a family on it the way I was doing it. So I decided to scrap that, and I started over. I did a little traveling. I had a few shekels saved up, and I started over as a freelancer. And I realized who you know is incredibly important,
Mm.
and it's more important than what you know as long as you know something. you know?
True.
And so all of a sudden I found myself as a formerly overeducated window cleaner, right? With a background in history, and I knew how to write. So I started. I said I'm going to embark on this marketing freelance career of copywriting and see what happens. And I just didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to
Mm.
get started. I was begging people for, hey, I will write for free. I just got to build my portfolio. And that was sort of planting the seed of, holy smokes, I'm not involved in this business world that everybody else seems to be involved in. I've missed that bus. And you feel the effects of that because it takes time to build that networking community.
It is, dude. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And the funniest part about it is that's exactly what you need to have in order for your business to grow. I mean, you could have scaled the window cleaning had you known a little bit more about the way people operate those businesses. And that could have come from networking with the right people. Even the freelance thing you could have taken off if you had the right people in your circle. The problem is we don't ever have those right people. We don't ever have that connection to go out. And if we do, it's like that awkward DM that you talked about. So let me ask you, for now that you've been at this for a while, you've had a lot of different quote unquote business dates that have come around the corner. And you've gone through the multiple iterations of businesses. What advice would you give to somebody getting started today that's maybe finding themselves cleaning windows or finds themselves struggling to network with people? What advice would you give them if they're getting started today?
Well, you know what? I want to talk to the people that kind of share my peculiarities. What's unique about me, is I feel for people who are naturally introverted that kind of
Mm.
get their energy from being alone. And it's not that we don't like people, it's that we have a hard they wear us out, right? So these networking events can often be kind of exhausting. You're in a room full of people, maybe you're not the best at talking to people, or you feel awkward or uncomfortable because these networking events can be so uncomfortable, right? It feels like moving a mountain for somebody like me to show up at a networking event alone. Like, that is like, how do you break into all these circles where people are talking to each other? Or how do I muster the gumption
Mm.
to reach out to somebody and say, hey, I really admire what you do. I know I don't have a resume of my own that matches yours, but I'm an admirer. Would would you be willing to speak with me about this topic? And I think, and maybe you can speak to this too, Hernan, is that people are a lot more generous than they let on. I think people really want to help other people. Like, I had a meeting with a guy last week. He says he talks to 20 to 30 new graduates in the filmography sphere because that's his area of expertise. And all he wants to do is help them break into the market where we live better. Here's what to avoid. Here's what to do. And people reach out to him, and he takes the time to have those meetings with him. Um, so I think that there's this whole ecosystem of people either towards the end of their career that want to be generous to those younger than them, or they're at the beginning of their career and they're going, shoot, I really need to know more people and build stronger relationships so that when the time comes for me to strike out on my own and build a business, or the time comes for me to get a different job because this one's wearing me out and my boss is a jerk, like that, like, you need to plant those seeds before you need those seeds to be full. All right, metaphor lost, but you get me.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. And believe it or not, I'm pretty introverted myself. I know it doesn't come off that way because I do the show and all that stuff, but in reality, you meet me on a day to day. I'm the guy who I tend to listen more than I do the talking, right? And then it's obvious in the show. I mean, obviously I'm the host and all, but I ask the questions. I do most of the listening, and that's kind of how I operate. When I'm not behind the camera as well, I'll ask a question here and there, but I like to do more listening. I feel like I grasp the other person a little bit better. That's kind of one of those things where I need to meet with people who are the talkers, the ones who have that kind of personality trait. And that's okay too. I felt exactly what you described a lot of times. You walk into an event and it feels like you're the only one who doesn't know anybody. It feels like you're the only one who doesn't have a conversation going. And then there's that awkward feeling of like trying to slide in there and have that conversation. It is completely weird. But once the conversation is going, once it started, it was cool. I remember one time I went to an event and I took my brother with me, and he didn't realize, and he's been with me for a long time, right? He didn't realize that that initial start was something that I struggled with to get into the conversation, which he had no problem. His problem was continuing it. And so as a tag team, it worked out. He was a perfect wingman. He'd start the conversation, then I'd keep it going by asking the questions, and it worked out. But flying solo, that might be that might be a little bit difficult. How do you feel you've gotten better over time as you've put yourself uncomfortably in these situations?
Oh man, it's so many different things. What one is just you just got to do it because you have to do
Mm,
it, right?
it's true.
If it freaks you out, that's a good indicator that you should be doing it. I think in most cases. Um, so once you build positive momentum in that direction, once you get that first one under your belt, second one's easier. The 100th one is nothing, and you learn really quickly that everybody else is just as insecure and feel just as naked as you do, and they're looking for somebody like you to come in and just put a smile on your face and say, I tried this last month. I said, hey guys, can I join the circle? And they went, heck yeah, man. What's your name? That's it. That's all you have to do. And you realize that these people are just people, you know.
Isn't it funny how that works out? Like we put on this persona or this story in our head of what's going on in a situation, and it's hardly ever really the case, right? Most people, like you said, are just as lost, just as feel just as awkward, and you can break the ice with something as simple as, "Hey, can I join the circle?" I've never thought about saying that, but now you got me. Now I'm gonna definitely use that one because it's true. It's like it's so simple, and it's the thing that we probably avoid or want to avoid doing the most, and it's the thing that's going to bring us the most value. I talk about working out all the time, the same thing. Nobody wants to do it, but you
Right.
have to do it because the result is you're going to be healthier. Same thing with networking. You don't really want to do it, or you feel uncomfortable doing it, but continuing to do it, it's going to be a lot easier. You're going to get a lot more comfortable. It's like being behind a camera the first time. It is horribly uncomfortable. You don't like the way you look. You don't like the way you sound, but you get better with a little bit of practice. All right. If there's so many different apps that you can use to meet people, but there's a reason why people come to your app. What do you feel it differentiates you? What do you think you guys do best?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so one of the reasons we're so passionate about this topic of networking and the people who might be struggling with it or looking to build a better network is because we realize the formats are kind of screwed up. For example, I don't want to pick a fight with LinkedIn. I think they're fantastic at what they do, but I'm pretty sure what they do isn't networking, and what you do on the platform isn't networking. Now, that said, I come from marketing. That's my world. And what you see on LinkedIn is a lot of marketing, a lot of personal brand building, audience building, public relations, credibility, all those kinds of things that you need. And by the way, are important. And you should be doing as an entrepreneur if that's your strategy for building your business. Um, but what you'll be frustrated to find on LinkedIn is a very small amount of actual one-on-one networking where you get to know somebody with any amount of reasonable depth.
Mm,
And the reason I say that is because depth is what brings trust, and trust is what builds a relationship. And networking exists for the relationship. So I think what we've kind of gained through LinkedIn is this amazing reach, incredible reach. I mean, the opportunities are endless on LinkedIn for reach or any other social platform. But we kind of got there by letting go of the depth that we need. You know,
mm.
who's the 20 people in your life that you actually call when you have a legal question or a medical question or an accounting question or a marketing question? The list goes on and on and on and on and on. That's your network, you know. And that's really what we're trying to zero in on with Tripoli is that the expectation on LinkedIn is that you get on to build an audience, right? Among other things. What we want is to get past that weird sort of digital only space and go, hey, we want an app for people who expect to meet in person, whether that's in your hometown if you and I lived in the same town, you better believe I'd be blowing you up on the app going, hey man, let's get coffee. I'm buying. And I just want to know more about you and what you do because I love it. Or if you live in San Diego, hey man, I'm coming to San Diego. I'm going to be in your town. I'd love to meet with you. I'm taking a business trip. That's what we're trying to restore is this in-person aspect where the trust comes from.
Do you feel like we've kind of transitioned a little bit and kind of going backwards? I'll give you an example. When I first started doing this podcast, it was just my brother and I. Then we slowly moved into doing interviews, and I would do them in person. So like the first, I don't know, 100, 200 episodes or so, they're in person. They would come over, shake hands, sit down. We'd do the interview. It was awesome. And then COVID hit. And then that changed everything because no longer could we meet in person. We had to do all that social distancing stuff. But this whole platform of like StreamYard and Zoom and all these things started to come out, and that became the norm. And I feel people have become exhausted on, do you want to hop on a Zoom? Not really, dude. I don't want to hop on Zoom anymore. I want to actually meet this person. And I feel like we're making that transition back to the office, back to in person, back to meeting rather than FaceTiming. Are you seeing that similar trend, or do you feel like people are just saying, nah, I'm good, I'm nomadic, I'm digital, that's how I want to be, I don't really want to meet in person?
Yeah, I think it's swinging back, man. I think it's swinging back big time. And you see it, I mean, in so many different ways. I mean, number one, technology. We keep trying to recreate this one-on-one interaction, and it's never quite what we're looking for. Like so for instance, you and I can have this conversation now and it's really good. And I'm blown away by the technology, right? All respect. But it's 60% of what you and I could have if we were sharing a beer or coffee or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's never, even with the latest Mac or Apple Vision Pro, like that's going to be one step closer to replicating what we would be doing in person, but it's just still not quite there. So you can tell it's of value because digital everything is trying to replicate what we get person to person, and maybe it'll get there one day. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we'll have like a Ready Player One type scenario where we throw the augmented glasses on, and then you are right there. Because I feel like there's like what's missing are some of the intangibles. Like something as simple as there's a background song going on, and there's like the conversation is going good. You have this emotional attachment with the music in the background. Like those experiences and memories are what really lock in those networking meetings, really, right? That's where you connect with somebody, where you have an experience together. It's difficult to have a very same experience digitally, right? I mean, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all the intangible stuff that connects us. It's the story behind somebody. It's the does that guy tuck his shirt in, and is he going for a latte, or or is he getting the drip coffee? Like all of these things are the intangible things that bind us. It's the story behind who we are and how we connect, and the ways that we overlap and interrelate, that are so valuable and bring connection. This isn't a great example, but it's the best example I can think of. Formula One. Lots of people love Formula One. I don't care about auto racing. And then I watched the series on Netflix where you got to see the story behind the people on the show, and now I'm all in, and I've been to 4 races. Like it's
That's how it
it's
works.
it's how it works is when you learn about the people behind the face on the screen that you go, oh, that's a person. And then you're connected. And I think a lot of people are missing that. I mean, so for example, introverts, like we might spend a lot of time going, golly, that guy's really active on LinkedIn. He's got really wise content, and it's impressive. He's posting 3 times a day. How's he doing that? And and all
And you
this stuff.
realize,
Yeah, yeah.
and you
But then
realize,
you
yeah,
meet him.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead. You
sorry,
meet
go
them in
ahead.
person. Yeah, no, go for it. I was gonna cut you off. You meet them in person, and then
Well, it's just like an introvert like me just holds all these people in high respect, and you go, "Oh, that guy's actually a normal person, and he's a kind guy, and he's kind of a dork, and I'm not as intimidated anymore." And it's like, and and now we're just 2 people in the same room and shaking hands, and you get to see the real person behind whatever it is they're putting out there.
And that is why you shouldn't meet your heroes, because you realize that they're just people too. At the end of the day, that's how it works, right? But yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like that shaking the hand and seeing how they dress. What did they actually go eat? I mean, like I know I got a buddy that he always brings me in and out on Wednesdays, and I'm like, yes, love it. And he's always impressed because like I inhale my food, and that's like one of those qualities. Like I don't mess around. I don't like take my time eating. I just want to eat it and be done, and then we can like talk or whatever, whatever goes after that. But all those different things are things you learn about this other person that you miss in that digital space. And Josh, I think what you're doing is incredible. If people want to find out more about connecting with other people, building that network, how can they get a hold of you? How can they start meeting people?
Yeah, gosh, we would love for you to join us. We are launching incredibly soon. We are just in the finishing touches of development. Find us at tripoli.io and get on the wait list and be one of the first people to start meeting people in person ASAP. And again, you can keep doing this on social media and other platforms. You can keep building your audience, but the minute you want to go meet somebody in person where that's their expectation too, do it on tripoli.io.
Plus, it's tax time, ladies and gentlemen. Look, if you ain't using your money to do the things that you want to do, what are you earning it for? Like at the end of the day, it's kind of a tough thing. Yeah, I get it. We got to pay our bills. Yeah, we got to save some money. But at the same time, you were going to go on that business trip anyways. Might as well hang out with somebody who has a similar mindset. You never know what doors are going to open. Tripoli.io is the website, Tripoli.io. Scrolling across the bottom, you can also find them on social at Tripoli.io as well. Josh, dude, thanks for coming on the show today. Any final thoughts before we head out?
No, sir. Hey, like I said, I'm a huge fan. I'm a liker. I'm a follower. I love everybody that you interview. They're all fantastic. And I can't wait to see more from you, buddy. Don't forget about me when you're huge.
Appreciate it, dude. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Tripoli.io is the website. Social media at Tripoli.io. Easy to remember. Go out there and start meeting some people. I promise you it's going to change your life. And if you're nervous about it, all the more reason why you got to do it. You got to break that cycle, and only you can make that happen. I promise you, this is episode 1299. I've interviewed over 1,000 entrepreneurs, and all of them say the same thing. The reason for their success is their network. They couldn't have done it alone. So stop being by yourself. Tripoli.io. Go meet some people. Take your business to that next level. Josh, thank you very much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started today.